Okay. It looks like we are live everywhere. Happy July the 3rd. So I wanted to continue on talking about blood markers. I cut off last time because I was really distracted. And I didn't see any questions. The only questions I had were on thyroid. And so I'll talk about thyroid in just a few minutes. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments and I will answer them if I'm on here live. Otherwise, I will be sure to answer them later on. So having trouble with my camera here, it keeps falling over. Anyway, so we have a masterclass on Thursday, depending on what you are watching this on. You may not get this until after. I apologize for that. But there's always a replay. So if you miss the class that is on Thursday, July the 6th, you can always message me and I can send you a replay for that. So we're going to be talking about blood markers and it's the hidden information in your blood markers. So how many times have you gone to the doctor and you get a blood report back? And if you're like me, you look at it and see, well, why is that out of range? And everything else looks kind of fine. So a couple of things might be out of range and you just get a phone call that says everything's normal. And you're like, wait, not everything's normal. I see two things that aren't in range. Well, we have a couple of problems here. Number one, in the conventional medical world, when they look at your blood markers, they look at a really big range and it's what the average person is, what their results are where you live. So I live in Georgia. My gen twin Jennifer is in California, and our ranges are slightly different because here in Georgia we have certain health factors, and there in California they have different health factors. And so it's what's normal. So if I look around my community, do I want to be normal or do I want to be healthier than normal? And in 2022, a study came out showing that 92% of Americans are metabolically unwell. So only 8% of people are metabolically well. Well, I want to be in that 8%. I don't want to be normal or average. And so in the functional medicine world, there is an optimal range. It's a much, much tighter range. So even the TSH, your thyroid, so many more people, their thyroid is out of balance way before the doctor says, hey, your thyroid, you need to be put on medicine. And the same thing with blood glucose markers, the same thing. And so in the conventional medicine world, they don't do anything until you are already having blood sugar problems, where if they use this tighter range and saw other factors that influence it, they could help you before you need to start taking medicine, before you have any damage. And if you've watched my other class on insulin resistance, you learn that you start having damage to the retinas before your A1C gets to 5.7, before you're diagnosed. There's already damage. And so sometimes things can't even be repaired or reversed when you get to that point. Now, in the conventional medicine world, there is no reversing and repairing. But in the functional medicine world, there is. So I am a living example of this. Autoimmune disease diagnosed in 2007, and now I am metabolically well. So I am in the 8%. And so that is definitely possible. In the conventional world, they say it's not. They tell you food and medicine has nothing to do with it. However, I have learned that there is, which is why that is my mission. My mission is to help people save their body parts. And so if you are watching this on YouTube and are not in my world, I'm new to you. You can find me at holisticgen.com. You are watching this on Holistic Gen YouTube channel, so you should know that. Anyway, on Thursday, July 6th, Jennifer, my gen twin, and I will be teaching more about these blood markers, but I thought I would just mention some. So when we look at these markers and see that they are out of range, you can look at the ones you have right now without even knowing the functional medicine ranges. You can look and tell, is it close to the highest part of the range? Is it outside of the range? A lot of them can show you if there is something going on with your vitamin C. Maybe you just need vitamin C. Vitamin C affects alkaline phosphatase, red blood cells, the MCV, the MCH, the MCHC, and hemoglobin, hematocrit as well. And so you want to look at those. If those are out of range, it could just be you need some vitamin C. Are you eating fresh fruits? My favorite way to get vitamin C is red bell peppers, but it's also in all of your raw fruits and vegetables, but it's highest in things like your colored bell peppers and like kiwi, cherries. So people think of oranges, your citrus fruits. Those are also very high in vitamin C. But there are other options as well. Eating some raw fruits and vegetables throughout the day. So vitamin C is a water soluble vitamin, which means that if you take in too much, you're going to urinate the rest of it out and your body's not going to store any. If you're under a lot of stress, your adrenals use more vitamin C than any other organ in your body per organ size, right? And so if you're under a lot of stress, you need even more vitamin C. And so I don't recommend supplements unless it's necessary. So eating raw fruits and vegetables, eating lots of fruits, depending on your blood sugar, right? If we get it under control, then you can have the fruit. I eat plenty of fruit. But you want to make sure that you are eating things that are high in vitamin C and keeping your blood sugar in balance at the same time. So some other things that we can look at when we look at the blood are zinc, molybdenum, selenium, and copper. So selenium is very important for the thyroid. You have to have selenium for several things, but especially the thyroid. Your biochemical pathways will not function correctly without appropriate amount of selenium. You can get selenium in Brazil nuts. There's some selenium in sunflower seeds and things like that. But there are some indicators on blood work that will tell us if you need selenium. Another one that is zinc. Zinc is one that's needed for so many different things. We learned about zinc with the pandemic. Everyone was like, oh, you need to take some zinc. But zinc is a mineral which can be stored in the body, and you don't want to take too much zinc. But we can look at blood work. We can look at your alkaline phosphatase and your white blood cells and see where are they in range. Do you have enough zinc? And then we can look at molybdenum. It's related to uric acid and iron and even copper. So don't supplement with copper. Copper is another one that's needed for so many different things. It's related to uric acid and also related to hemoglobin. So it's very important. But copper competes with zinc. And so we don't want to take more of one than the other. We need to keep them in balance, and you need less copper than you need zinc anyway. So don't supplement with copper, but looking for foods that do have copper in them, making sure you're eating foods that are high in zinc. My favorite is pumpkin seeds for zinc. And so I just want you to see that there's so many different things that we can see in your blood work that your doctor may not be aware of. Maybe you're going to a functional medicine doctor. I go to a well, actually I'm retired now, but I was going to a functional medicine doctor. And so that's how I learned a lot of this. But then I'm graduating in 2 weeks, nutritional endocrinology practitioner. And so I've learned a lot of it there too. If you want to learn more about that program, Dr. Rita Marie Lascalzo is the owner developer of the nutritional endocrinology practitioner program. So there are a lot of markers related to low stomach acid. So this is something that I hear a lot from my clients, is that I have too much stomach acid. I have high stomach acid. And they talk about things like burping and gas and burning in the esophagus and stuff like that. Well, it's not necessarily too much stomach acid. Sometimes it can be too low. If your stomach acid is too low, you have to create enough to break down, especially proteins. You need that stomach acid to break down proteins to get your amino acids to absorb your amino acids. So if you have leaky gut, you have low stomach acid, you may be eating plenty of protein, but you're not breaking it down, which means you're not absorbing it. And so what we want to do is look at your blood work and see, are there trends? So low stomach acid is related to chloride, calcium, phosphorus, protein, albumin, uric acid, ferritin, iron, and hemoglobin, as well as carbon dioxide, MCV, MCH, MCHC, and globulin. And so we want to look at those. Where are you trending? Are these numbers trending high? Are these numbers trending low? And then we want to look and see, you may have stomach acid issue. And so then we can look at ways to remedy that. Now, there are some people that do have high stomach acid, but usually that's younger people. That's usually children. Children can have high stomach acid, but usually when you get beyond your 20s, depending on your diet in your 20s, could be sooner. We do a lot of damage to our bodies, and that decreases our stomach acid. And something else that we can see in our blood is digestive enzymes. And so that is also related to our stomach acid. We need digestive enzymes to help break down our foods, to help with gas and bloating. So many people suffer with gas and bloating, and digestive enzymes are definitely one of those things that we want to look at, and they're related to your glucose. When you have your blood work, are you fasting before your blood work? That's key. You definitely want to be fasting before you have any of your blood work. But we want to look at your glucose, your triglycerides, your alkaline phosphatase, your lipase and amylase. If they test those, they're not always on there. And the albumin, as well as some other markers. And so there are some things we can do to help with digestive enzymes as well. And so that's really important. And then we are all used to looking at things like our lipids, our cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, and LDL. Do you know what those mean? So it tells you, how much fat and how much protein is in your blood cells. And so you want to look at the different markers and see, are they in range? Are they out of range? And we will talk about a lot of this on our class on June 6th. It is a free class. There is a workbook that goes along with it. Some of you saw my class last year, and so we've enhanced it a little bit. It's also me and Jennifer. Last time it was just me. And so we're really going to do a deep dive so that you can just bring your report with you to class on Zoom, and you can look and go through and see how you do. And then if you decide that you need help beyond our class, then we can tell you how you can get help with that as well. But other things that affect your blood markers are your CRP and your homocysteine. Doctors don't always check those. And so if your blood lipids are out of range, then you want to ask your doctor to run more testing. And so better testing to know, is it heart related, not heart related? Do I have inflammation? Or CRP and homocysteine, they are really key in showing you inflammation. Now, homocysteine can be related because of a vitamin deficiency, folate, not folic acid, folate. And so sometimes that's related. But if you don't have a folate deficiency and you take other B vitamins, that can be affecting it as well. And so we want to make sure we're looking at the right vitamins. Sometimes taking a B complex isn't right for everyone, and we have to look and see where you are and what affects you. For some of us, it's better to start with single B vitamins than taking all of them because they can block each other. But there are other cardiovascular markers that we'll talk about on Thursday as well. And we'll explain more about the difference between the lipids. And then we have the blood sugar markers. So in the conventional medicine world, a fasting glucose is, you aren't concerned unless it gets above 100. In the functional medicine world, we don't want it to get above 85. And so look at what your fasting glucose is or has been on your last blood report, or hopefully you get an annual blood test. Now, from the School of Natural Healing, we didn't do that. You don't poke the skin or anything like that. But I do like to look at tests. I think tests are really important to getting at the root cause. Hemoglobin A1C, the optimal range is between 4.5 and 5. That's way below the conventional medicine world. So because remember, damage can occur before 5.7. So we want to make sure that we're keeping it as close between 4.5 and 5 as possible. Triglycerides, that tells you a lot about how your body is handling sugar as well. We see that in your blood lipid marker, but we want that between 50 and 100. We want your insulin. How many of you have a fasting insulin? I don't. My doctor never tested that, but that's something else. If your glucose and hemoglobin are out of range, hemoglobin A1C are out of range, then you will want to ask for a fasting insulin, because that's something that's going to tell you more about how your body is handling sugars. So when we look at the hemoglobin A1C, that is a measure of how well your body has been handling sugar over the last 120 days, because that's how long a red blood cell lives, and it's sugars attached to the red blood cell, and it takes that long. So sometimes people will say, well, I had my A1C checked, and 3 weeks later I'm having it checked again. It's not going to change enough. We need to see 3 months. We need to give it about 3 months. So that is something that we want to look at. But once again, in the optimal range, we want between 4.5 and 5. So what are some effects of insulin resistance? Increased body fat. especially around the middle. Damage to blood vessel linings. Most people with insulin resistance end up dying of cardiovascular disease. And the first symptom most people have of heart disease is death. So we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can before we experience that, right? And so if you can look at your other blood markers, you can see what changes you can make to help repair any damage, reverse any damage, prevent any damage before it gets that far. Other effects of insulin resistance are elevated inflammatory markers, hypertension, and decreased growth hormone, which means you have trouble building muscle, and also decreased thyroid hormone. It can affect your thyroid. So that is why when we are working on the thyroid, one of the things we always want to do is make sure that blood sugar is under control first, because you can't get the thyroid under control if the blood sugar is not under control. So things that you can do to check your blood sugar are testing your blood before and after you eat. You can get a glucose monitor. If your doctor can prescribe a CGM for you, that would be great. In other countries, you can get them, but here in the US, you have to have a prescription unless you go to there are some organizations. You can Google CGM. Some of them have a doctor on staff where they can get it for you. You just can't get it through your insurance. It can be kind of costly. So you can buy inexpensive glucometers at CVS, Walgreens, any of your drugstores, and you prick your finger and you test it. I did it on another video. You can go through the videos and find another one a few weeks ago where I actually did one on here. You want your maximum peak to be 110 after you eat. So I challenge many of you to do this. What is your blood sugar when you wake up in the morning? You can do your own fasting glucose. What is your blood sugar after you eat? Now, the thing is, you don't know when your peak is unless you check it often after you eat. So I recommend you check it every 15 minutes after a meal until you see it start going back down. Then you'll know, okay, I hit my high. And then if you are concerned, maybe you think you get hypoglycemic, then you can keep testing it to see how low it goes as well, because we don't want spikes and large dips either, because that shows poor glucose control. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the thyroid, since I did have some questions on the thyroid. I was thinking that I had something up here. So the thyroid, a lot of people are concerned about thyroid. Thyroid is one of those conditions that is exploding right now. So many people are having problems with their thyroid. And in a conventional medicine world, they only test your TSH. And I mentioned this before. Your TSH is thyroid stimulating hormone. It's what your pituitary gland is telling your thyroid to do. And so one number really doesn't tell us much at all. It tells us what the thyroid is seeing and doing. It doesn't tell us what of your pituitary gland is seeing and doing. It doesn't tell you what the thyroid is actually doing. And so you really need more markers. You need to know what your other thyroid markers are. And so I strongly encourage you to ask your doctor for a full thyroid panel, especially if your thyroid markers are out of the optimal range, which has just been lowered. I can't remember. I think it's 0.5 to 2.0. And so that means a lot of us really need to hone in. There are a lot of things that are related to the thyroid, nutrients, like your vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin D, all of those can affect all of your thyroid hormones. And so we want to make sure that you're getting all of those in your foods. Some of us have, I am one of them, have a gene where we struggle to get enough vitamin D. And so I do have to supplement, even though I'm out in the sun. I'm out in the sun every single day. I still have to supplement with vitamin D, less so in the summer. So I strongly encourage you to get your vitamin D tested. It's not on a regular annual exam, but you can ask your doctor to run it. And you want to check it in the winter and in the summer to see, because in the winter, if you live where I live, you most likely, this medical disclaimer, I'm not telling anyone to supplement, but you want to check it and find out if you need to supplement in the wintertime, October to March. Where I live, we just can't get, the way the sun is angled, we can't get enough vitamin D. And if you live north of the Atlanta area, that latitude, then you also want to look at that. In the summertime where I live, then most people don't need to supplement if they are out in the sun. If you work in the office every day and you're only out in the sun 1 day a week, you may get enough, but you want to test it. And it also depends on your genes as well. So other vitamins that are related to the thyroid are vitamin A, B2, B3, B6, and vitamin C. And so those are things we can look at your other blood markers and see, are you struggling in any of those areas? Are your numbers in range? If you have a deficiency in zinc or copper, then that can affect your thyroid. But remember, again, from the beginning of this video, you don't want to supplement with those unless you have to. You want to get those from your food. And remember, they compete against each other, zinc and copper. So if you're taking in too much zinc, you're not going to get enough copper. If you're taking in too much copper, you're not going to get enough zinc. So you want the right balance there. And we can look at your blood markers to see if zinc and copper maybe are an issue for you. And then I already talked about selenium in Brazil nuts and sunflower seeds. And so you don't want to overdose it on those. You don't want to eat like 20 Brazil nuts every single day. Then you could get too much selenium. We need the appropriate amount. Anyway, I am out of time for today. If you have any questions, please comment. I hope you join our free class on Thursday. I'll put the link in the comments here. I'd love to see you in there. And also we have the salad challenge starting next Monday, June 10th. So I really, really hope you sign up for the salad challenge. I'll put that link as well. It's a free challenge. Next week, we want to see everyone's beautiful, beautiful salads. I can't wait. Anyway, I hope that you all have a wonderful July 4th. Thanks for joining me today.